Hello and welcome back to the Own Accord Podcast YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be going through every team's starting catcher and ranking them 1 through 30. This was a very difficult task, but I think I've got a product I'm pretty happy with. Now, for this list, I did only take into account this season or this half season. I took into account offense and defense, and a lot of teams split time between their catchers because the big guys need rest, right? So what I did was I went onto Baseball Reference and either took whoever Baseball Reference said their starting catcher was, or whichever starting catcher had the most games played for the team. Those are all the stipulations I need. Let's just get right into it. Coming in dead last, we have Houston Astros catcher Martin Maldonado. He can't hit for his life, quite honestly. He's got a 50 weighted runs created plus. He's got a 174 batting average, and a lot of Astros fans still like him. And they like him because of this illusion of good defense. Well, I've got news for you, buddy. He's not a good defender. -7 framing runs this year, 0 blocking runs above average, and 1 cut stealing above average. There's not much this guy can do right. I don't want to just rag on him this whole time, but there isn't really much nice to say about him, so I'm just going to stop talking. Coming in at number 29, we have new Guardians catcher Mike Zunino. Just, again, not very good. Hits 177 on the batting average, -0.1 WARs, 63 weighted runs created plus, and you're thinking, surely this guy's a stout defender, and you'd be wrong. He's not. He's got -10 blocking, runs above average, roughly average framer, I think 2 outs above average, and then -1 caught stealing above average. So, just again, a guy who really can't do much, and I don't mean to sound like such a huge hater, but just a lot of these guys near the bottom of the list are not good. Coming in at number 28, we have Padres catcher Austin Nola. Now, just to give you a frame of reference, this is his highlights from the entire 2022 season. This video is 4 minutes long, so not a lot of good coming out of Austin Nola recently. 37 weighted runs created plus is, I want to say, historically low. Hitting 143 on the year, and he's not even a good defender, right? -3 framing, -3 caught stealing runs above average. Again, just not a lot to like with this guy. The Padres are obviously a struggling team, and maybe catcher is a position they look to upgrade in the trade deadline. Coming in at number 27, we have new Pirates catcher Austin Hedges. Now, this may look like, at a glance, at just the hitting stats, the same as Austin Nola, but there's a big difference between them. But for hitting, 25 weighted runs created plus is so bad. It's hard to comprehend how terrible you have to be 75% worse than the average MLB hitter, but 173 batting average will do it. Now, here's the difference between him and Austin Nola. He has 9 framing outs above average this year and 5 blocking outs above average. He's an amazing defender, and I'd love to put him higher, but I cannot justify putting a 25 weighted runs created plus player any higher than this. Coming in at number 26, we have Oakland A's catcher Shea Langeliers. Now, this is a guy I actually do like quite a bit. His peripheral stats look good, but the production right now is just not quite there. He's got a 74 weighted runs created plus, and he's hitting 203, just not great. Nothing about the Oakland A's is great right now, though. In terms of defense, one of the worst in the league. In terms of framing and blocks, he's -8 and -6 outs above average, respectfully in both of those categories. But he's got a hose. He's caught 6 runners stealing above average. I think there is potential here for Shea Langeliers. I wouldn't give up yet, but this season has just been really tough on him. Rounding out the bottom 5, at 25 we have Nationals catcher Kyber Ruiz. And this does hurt me to say as a Nats fan, but it's undeniable when you look at it, really. A 77 weighted runs created plus, 229 batting average. He's got 9 home runs, but it doesn't look great at all for him. Defensively, I am comfortable saying he's the worst catcher in baseball. -11 framing runs above average, -8 blocks above average, -10 caught stealing above average. Those are the most abysmal catching defensive stats I've ever seen in my life. I do still have hope for him. He's fairly young. There's always room to improve, and he doesn't strike out a lot at all, and that's always a good sign. But as of right now, things are just very bleak for him. Coming in at number 24, we have Yasmani Grandal, catcher for the White Sox, and it's time to celebrate because we have our first player with a relatively normal weighted runs created plus. Let's go. 97. Still below average, but pretty much average, right? And that's about as good as we're going to get from these spots at catcher. 260 batting average, 6 home runs. Not a very good catcher defensively at all. -1 framing, -7 caught stealing above average. Guys are just running everywhere on him. And the batting peripherals just look awful. You look at his baseball savant page, it's just blue circle after blue circle after blue circle. He's not barreling balls, he's not hitting them hard, he's not getting a good launch angle. But the average and the weighted runs created plus the production is good enough to put him at 24. 3, we have Connor Wong. He's got a 79 weighted runs created plus. He's hitting 218. He's got a hose, 5 caught stealing outs above average, but he can't frame. -5 framing runs above average. Overall, a fine choice at catcher for the Red Sox, who aren't very competitive this year. He's also young, so he's got room to grow. Pretty unremarkable, though. Here at 22, we have Reds power hitting catcher Tyler Stevenson. He's hitting 258 on the year. He's got 7 home runs. Not the best defensively, but he's not terrible. He's about average. He had a great year last year, obviously, but he's failed to replicate it this year for the Reds, who are very competitive, and we're hoping he can make a jump in the second half. Coming in at 21 is a guy I think is a little underrated by the MLB community, at least as a prospect. We have 23-year-old Diamondbacks catcher Gabriel Moreno. He's hitting 271 on the year, which is really good for a catcher. He's got a 77 weighted runs created plus. Defensively, he's about average. He's got 6 caught stealing above average, though, so he's got a hose. I'm really excited for this guy's future. It's not all there right now, but if you can get a little pop to his bat, I would be very excited as a Diamondbacks fan. Coming in at number 20, we have new Minnesota Twins catcher Christian Vasquez. He's posted a .6 WAR so far this year. He's hitting 222, and he's doing pretty well defensively, having 2 framing runs above average. He's been pretty solid for a competing Twins team. Hopefully he can help them win the division. Coming in just above him at 19 is Tampa Bay's Rays catcher Christian Betancourt. He's hitting 236 this year with an 86 weighted runs created plus. Still a young guy for the Rays who do have a knack for developing young talent. So this may be a guy you want to keep an eye on in the future, but as of right now, he's only 19th. At 18, we have Chicago Cubs catcher Yan Gomes. He's hitting 265 on the year with a pretty solid weighted runs created plus. That's relatively good for a catcher. He's been fine defensively, okay at framing, great at blocking, and fine with the stealing. The Cubs have been competitive this year, and he is part of the reason they have been. He's got good veteran leadership for a lot of the young guys, and he's coming in at number 18. Coming in at number 17, we have a Yankees catcher, Jose Trevino. He's not a great hitter. He's only hitting 210 with a roughly 50 weighted runs created plus, but he still managed to produce .8 WAR for New York, and most of that has come from the defensive side of the ball. He is a great defensive catcher. Elite framing, elite blocking, pretty good at catching guys stealing. He's been great for New York, not the best hitter, which is what New York needs right now, but nonetheless, it's hard to argue that he's been valuable. At number 16, we do have a player who is very similar to Jose Trevino, and that is one of my favorite catchers in the league, Nick Fortes. He is the best blocking catcher in the league by far, very good at framing, and slightly better at catching guys stealing than Trevino, and also, 2 points better in weighted run created plus as a hitter. So that's why he does take this spot, but they are both very similar guys. Fortes a little younger, so I am excited to see where his hitting develops from here. Starting off the top half of this list at 15, we do have Wilson Contreras, new St. Louis Cardinals catcher. He's hitting 214 this year with an 89 weighted runs created plus and decent defense behind the dish. Cardinals have been struggling. Wilson has too. It's been a career down year for him, but hopefully he can pick it up in the second half of the season and the Cardinals can really get going. Coming in at number 14 on the list is going to be Giants rookie Blake Sabol. He's been producing pretty well for the Giants, who had to move on from Joey Bart this year. He's got a 99 weighted runs created plus, a .09 WAR production, and he's been pretty solid defensively behind the plate. Coming in at number 13, we have Salvador Perez. I know, hold your booze and allow me to explain. This is a guy who has a worse WAR than Jose Trevino, a worse WRC plus than Yan Gomes, and a worse batting average than Gabriel Moreno. The only thing keeping him this high is his power. He's got 15 home runs on the year. That's good for second amongst catchers. And his defense has been better, right? There were many years where he was the worst catcher in the league, but he's climbed up to about average, and I think that's good enough to put him at 13th. At number 12, allow me to introduce to you the most underrated catcher in the MLB, Jake Rogers. Let me talk to you, okay? 112 WRC plus in 54 games has created a 1.9 WAR for the Detroit Tigers. Great framing defense, average blocking and caught stealing defense. Nobody is talking about this guy. He deserves so much more recognition. I've got him at 12 only because of the small sample size, but if he was playing up like in the 80, 70 game marks like a lot of these guys are, I'd have trouble keeping him out of the top 10 or even 7. Coming in just outside the top 10 at number 11, we have Alejandro Kirk of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's got a 253 batting average and a 90 weighted runs created plus. He's also one of the best blocking catchers in the league for a very good, very competitive, but in a very good division, Toronto Blue Jays team. Borderline top 10. I could mix him out with Jake Rogers too, 11 or 12. It's close as to who's better, but I have Kirk just because he's played more games. Coming in at number 10, starting off the top 10, is Seattle Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh. He's got a 100 WRC plus and a 1.5 wins above replacement for the Seattle Mariners this year. A lot of that coming from the pop off his bat, 11 home runs for a catcher. Great stuff, about as much production as you can ask for. And defensively, he's been pretty solid. He's about average throughout all the categories, and that's good enough to put him in the top 10. Coming in at number 9, we have Mets number 1 prospect, Francisco Alvarez. He's crushed 13 home runs this year. That's good for second amongst catchers in the MLB. He's got a 101 WRC plus, and he's a great framing and blocking catcher. This guy has all the potential in the world. I'm super excited to see where he goes from here. The only thing holding him back, in my opinion, is the contact tool. I don't think it's quite there yet. He's only hitting 214 for the Mets this year, but he has been a huge bright spot on a Mets team that has been largely disappointing. Coming in at number 8, this may be baseball blasphemy for a lot of you, but JT Realmuto has not had the strongest year of his career. He's sitting at a 100 WRC plus and produced 1 win above replacement for the Philadelphia Phillies, and that's solid. But then you look at his defense. It's a Gold Glove winner, but it's kind of fallen off this year. He's not a good framing catcher. He's got the fastest pop time down to second base, sure, but his caught stealing above average is only 1. And he's a very good blocker, I'll give you that. But the defense isn't as elite as it's oftentimes billed to be. And that's why he's sitting down here at 8 instead of up in the top 5 with a lot of other guys. Coming in at number 7, we have Los Angeles Angels backstop Matt Tice. He's been sporting a 112 WRC plus this year with a 370 OBP with perfectly average defense. One of the biggest upsides of him is he is walking a lot this year. He's not chasing at all. His walk rate is top, I think, 5% in the league. The Angels are getting a lot of value out of him. Obviously, Ohapi went down with an injury early in the year, but he's come in and more than exceeded expectations. Coming in at number 6, we have the Colorado Rockies' lone all-star for this year, Elias Diaz. He's been on a tear in the first half of the season. He's got a 98 weighted runs created plus, slugging 452 with 9 bombs. Defensively, he's a very good blocker and the best in the league in runners caught stealing above average. He's doing it on both sides of the ball, and I'm excited to see him play in the All-Star game this year. First player we have in our top 5 is going to be new Milwaukee Brewers catcher William Contreras. He's produced 2 wins above replacement for the Brewers this year. Got a 108 WRC plus, and defensively, he's been revitalized by the Milwaukee Brewers catching lab. This is a guy who was not a very good defensive catcher until this year. He gets to Milwaukee, something just clicks. Maybe it's the coaching staff is getting him right, but something's happened. He's a great defender now. That's good enough to put him top 5. I thought he could have been an All-Star game nod, but I totally understand why he wasn't. Coming in at number 4, we have Orioles sophomore phenom, Adley Rutschman. He's been hitting great this year. He produced a 121 WRC plus, and the O's 1.8 wins above replacement. And he's walking more than almost any other catcher in baseball, which is super valuable to teams. Defensively, he's been very solid. He's been a good blocker and a good framer, along with average, but ceiling above average. He has just exploded onto the scene. He has lived up to all the hype that he got as the number one pick, and Baltimore super excited to have him. At number 3, we have Dodgers catcher Will Smith. He's slugging almost 500 with a 145 WRC plus. He's produced 2.9 wins above replacement for the Dodgers this year, and let me tell you, he's just been on an absolute tear. 12 home runs, defense is about average, but when you can hit like Will Smith does, it doesn't even matter. At number 2, we have the AL All-Star starting catcher, Texas Rangers Jonah Heim. He's produced 3 wins above replacement for the Texas Rangers this year, hit 12 home runs, and put up a 125 WRC plus with amazing defense. One of the best framing catchers in the league, and solid blocking and caught stealing as well. The Texas Rangers certainly got themselves a hidden gem because nobody thought he'd be there at the beginning of the year, but here he is tearing it up. And finally, the best catcher in baseball, the NL All-Star starter at catcher, the Atlanta Braves, Sean Murphy. He's got a 155 WRC plus this year, which is absolutely insane. He's one of the leaders in WAR with 3.8 wins above replacement for the Atlanta Braves, and he's got 14 home runs. Now, I know what you're thinking, Ben, if he can hit like this, surely he can't defend, and that's where you're wrong, mister. He's one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. This is a guy who can do it all. The Braves fleeced the Oakland Athletics in this trade, but that's nothing new for Oakland, really. And I don't think there's any debate as to who the best catcher in baseball is when Sean Murphy is playing the way he is. That's going to be it for me today. If you did make it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. It really does mean a lot. Comment below what pick you disagreed with the most, whether it be overrated or underrated, or if you think I did a great job and you just want to tell me how awesome I did, feel free to comment that too. But other than that, that's it for me today. I'ma catch you.